He was the kind of man people rarely noticed, even when he stood right in front of them. A single father, quiet by habit, careful by necessity. Every night after the office lights dimmed and the powerful went home, he stayed behind, cleaning the floors, emptying bins, erasing the traces of decisions that shaped lives far bigger than his own. His world was simple: work honestly, return home, cook dinner, help his son with homework, and pray that tomorrow would be stable. That evening began like any other. He received a last-minute request to clean an executive office on the top floor. It was unusual, but he didn't question it. He never did. He knocked softly, waited, heard no response, and assumed the room was empty. When he opened the door, his life quietly split into before and after. Inside stood the CEO, caught off guard in a private moment she never expected anyone to witness. Shock froze both of them. He didn't stare. He didn't step forward. Instinct took over. He looked away immediately, apologized once, and closed the door with respect. The moment lasted seconds, but in a building ruled by perception, seconds were enough to destroy a man like him. He returned to his work, shaken but composed, believing professionalism would protect him. By morning, he realized how wrong he was. Conversation stopped when he walked by. Eyes avoided his. His supervisor became distant. A routine task was reassigned without explanation. His access card malfunctioned on floors he'd cleaned for years. No one accused him openly, but silence spoke loudly. Something had shifted, and it wasn't in his favor. By the second day, fear crept in, not fear for his reputation, but fear for his son. This job wasn't just income. It was survival. One missed paycheck meant overdue rent, unpaid bills, and broken promises to a child who trusted him completely. He swallowed his anxiety and kept working, believing effort and humility would fix what misunderstanding had broken. That belief shattered late one night. As he pushed his cart down a quiet corridor, he heard voices behind a partially open door. Senior executives, confident, unafraid, they spoke casually, carelessly, assuming no one like him mattered enough to overhear. His name surfaced, not spoken fully, just a label. The janitor, a risk. A liability. Someone suggested removing him before things got complicated. That was when it hit him. This wasn't about what he saw. It was about what they were hiding. His chest tightened as he realized he had walked into something far bigger than an awkward accident. He finished his shift in silence, his mind racing with consequences he didn't yet understand. Later that night, in a conference room trash bin, he noticed a folder that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't shredded. It wasn't locked away, just discarded. Inside were documents filled with numbers that didn't align, approvals looping through the same names, expenses quietly rerouted. He wasn't trained in finance, but he had lived long enough to recognize wrongdoing. This was the truth they feared. He stood there holding the folder, knowing that in his hands lay both danger and power. He could expose it. He could protect himself. He could become someone they couldn't silence. Or he could walk away. Thoughts of his son flooded his mind. The small bedroom, the school uniform laid out every night, the trust in a child's eyes. He knew one wrong move could cost him everything. Powerful people didn't lose easily, and men like him didn't survive battles like this. So he made a choice few would understand. He placed the folder back exactly where he found it. No photos, no copies, no evidence taken. Not because he was afraid, but because he refused to become part of corruption, even as a weapon against it. His silence wasn't weakness. It was restraint. That night at home, he watched his son sleep longer than usual. He wondered if doing the right thing meant accepting loss. He decided that if he was going to be pushed out, he would leave with his integrity intact. The next morning, he arrived earlier than ever. He worked harder, spoke less, stayed invisible. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply continued doing his job with dignity, unaware that his quiet honesty had already set something irreversible in motion. Sometimes the most powerful storms begin in silence, and he had no idea that his life was about to change. Forever. Change rarely announces itself. In that building, it began as discomfort, subtle, quiet, and impossible to ignore. A routine system check failed to reconcile. A financial approval stalled without explanation. What had once flowed smoothly now resisted, as if the company itself was pushing back. The CEO felt it before she understood it. For days, the accidental moment replayed in her mind, not with embarrassment, but with confusion. The man's reaction had been respectful, controlled, almost instinctively decent. It didn't match the story she'd been given, and she had learned long ago that when narratives are too neat, they usually hide something ugly underneath. She started asking questions. Not publicly, not dramatically, quietly. She requested files others hesitated to share. She noticed how certain names kept reappearing in approvals, how explanations came rehearsed, how discomfort spread the moment she pressed deeper. Power resists exposure, but it always leaves fingerprints. An internal review began without announcement. No emails, no meetings, just facts examined one by one. The deeper it went, the clearer the truth became. Funds redirected, numbers altered, authority abused. And at the center of it all, the same people who had tried to erase a janitor instead of fixing their crimes. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was calculated. When the CEO finally asked to see him, the single father already knew what to expect. Termination, accusation, silence wrapped in politeness. He walked into her office without fear or hope, only acceptance. Whatever happened next, he had made peace with his choices. She didn't start with accusations. She asked about his life, his work hours, his son, questions no one in power had ever bothered to ask him before. Then she asked about that night. He told the truth without embellishment. No emotion, no defense, just facts. When she asked about the documents, he paused only briefly before answering honestly. He admitted seeing them, admitted recognizing something was wrong, and admitted choosing not to take anything. When she asked why, his answer changed everything. Because I didn't want to protect myself by becoming part of something wrong. There was no pride in his voice, no expectation of reward, just a simple line drawn between integrity and fear. That was the moment the CEO understood the full weight of what had happened. The real threat in her company hadn't been corruption alone. It had been the belief that people without power could be sacrificed quietly. The investigation concluded swiftly after that. Contracts were terminated. Legal processes followed. Careers built on manipulation collapsed without ceremony. The company survived, but not unchanged. The CEO faced a decision that would define her leadership. She could elevate him publicly, turn his story into a symbol, and benefit from the praise. Or she could honor the kind of man he was by protecting his dignity. She chose the second. No announcements were made. No applause followed. Instead, policies changed. Reporting systems became transparent. Protections were extended to every employee, regardless of title. Wages were reviewed. Silence was no longer rewarded. Privately, she offered him a new role, one built on trust, stability, and growth. Not charity, not favor, opportunity. He accepted, not because of ambition, but because it meant safety for his child. At home, life slowly softened. Fewer sleepless nights, more presence. His son noticed first, as children always do. When asked what had changed, the father didn't speak of power or justice. He simply said he chose to stay honest when it was hardest. Years passed. The building still stood tall. Executives came and went. But something invisible had shifted. People spoke up sooner. Wrongdoing didn't hide as easily. And somewhere in the company, a man once unseen worked with the same quiet dedication, no longer invisible, but never seeking attention. No plaque carried his name. No article told his story. But his kindness had done what force never could. It had changed the system. Because true heroes don't demand recognition. They don't seek revenge. They don't trade integrity for safety. They simply choose what is right, even when no one is watching.